Today I will be reading to you my highlights of Carol Dweck's Mindset, Updated Edition, Changing the Way You Think to Fulfill Your Potential. In this book, you'll learn how a simple belief about yourself, a belief we discovered in our research, guides a large part of your life. In fact, it permeates every part of your life. Much of what you think of as your personality actually grows out of this mindset. Much of what may be preventing you from fulfilling your potential grows out of it. The mindsets. What are the consequences of thinking that your intelligence or personality is something you can develop, as opposed to something that is a fixed, deep-seated trait? A few modern philosophers assert that an individual's intelligence is a fixed quantity, a quantity which cannot be increased. We must protest and react against this brutal pessimism. With practice, training, and above all, method, we manage to increase our attention, our memory, our judgment, and literally to become more intelligent than we were before. Who's right? Today, most experts agree that it's not either or. It's not nature or nurture, genes or environment. From conception on, there's a constant give and take between the two. In fact, as Gilbert Gottlieb, an eminent neuroscientist, put it, not only do genes and environment cooperate as we develop, but genes require input from the environment to work properly. The major factor in whether people achieve expertise, quote, is not some fixed prior ability, but purposeful engagement, unquote. Or, as his forerunner Binet recognized, it's not always the people who start out the smartest who end up the smartest. Believing that your abilities are carved in stone, the fixed mindset, creates an urgency to prove yourself over and over. If you have only a certain amount of intelligence, a certain personality, and a certain moral character, well then you'd better prove that you have a healthy dose of them. It simply wouldn't do to look or feel deficient in these most basic characteristics. I've seen so many people with this one consuming goal of proving themselves, in the classroom, in their careers, and in their relationships. Every situation calls for a confirmation of their intelligence, personality, or character. Every situation is evaluated. Will I succeed or fail? Will I look smart or dumb? Will I be accepted or rejected? Will I feel like a winner or a loser? There's another mindset in which these traits are not simply a hand you're dealt and have to live with, always trying to convince yourself and others that you have a royal flush when you're secretly worried it's a pair of tens. In this mindset, the hand you're dealt is just the starting point for development. This growth mindset is based on the belief that your basic qualities are things you can cultivate through your efforts, your strategies, and help from others. Although people may differ in every which way, in their initial talents and aptitudes, interests, or temperaments, everyone can change and grow through application and expertise. They believe that a person's true potential is unknown and unknowable, that it's impossible to foresee what can be accomplished with years of passion, toil, and training. Why waste time proving over and over how great you are when you could be getting better? Why hide deficiencies instead of overcoming them? Why look for friends or partners who will just shore up your self-esteem instead of ones who will also challenge you to grow? And why seek out the tried and true instead of experiences that will stretch you? The passion for stretching yourself and sticking to it, even or especially when it's not going well, is the hallmark of the growth mindset. What's also new is that people's ideas about risk and effort grow out of their more basic mindset. It's not just that some people happen to recognize the value of challenging themselves and the importance of effort. Our research has shown that this comes directly from the growth mindset. When we teach people the growth mindset with its focus on development, these ideas about challenge and effort follow. Similarly, it's not just that some people happen to dislike challenge and effort. We often see books with titles like The 10 Secrets of the World's Most Successful People crowding the shelves of bookstores, and these books may give many useful tips. But they're usually a list of unconnected pointers like take more risks or believe in yourself. While you're left admiring people who can do that, it's never clear how these things fit together or how you could ever become that way. So you're inspired for a few days, but basically the world's most successful people still have their secrets. Studies show that people are terrible at estimating their abilities. Recently, we set out to see who's most likely to do this. Sure, we found that people greatly misestimated their performance and their ability. But it was those with a fixed mindset who accounted for almost all the inaccuracy. The people with the growth mindset were amazingly accurate. If you're oriented toward learning as they are, you need accurate information about your current abilities in order to learn effectively. However, if everything's either good news or bad news about your precious traits, as it is with fixed mindset people, distortion almost inevitably enters the picture. Some outcomes are magnified, others are explained away, and before you know it, you don't know yourself at all. Your personality mindset comes into play in situations that involve your personal qualities. For example, how dependable, cooperative, caring, or socially skilled you are. The fixed mindset makes you concerned with how you will be judged. The growth mindset makes you concerned with improving. Imagine you've decided to learn a new language and you've signed up for a class. A few sessions into the course, the instructor calls you to the front of the room and starts throwing questions at you one after another. Put yourself in a fixed mindset. Your ability is on the line. Can you feel everyone's eyes on you? Can you see the instructor's face evaluating you? Feel the tension. Feel your ego bristle and waver. What else are you thinking and feeling? Now put yourself in a growth mindset. You're a novice, that's why you're here. You're here to learn. The teacher is a resource for learning. Feel the tension leave you. Feel your mind open up. The message is you can change your mindset. Inside the mindsets. There were two meanings to ability, not one. A fixed ability that needs to be proven and a changeable ability that can be developed through learning. When you enter a mindset, you enter a new world. In one world, the world of fixed traits, success is about proving you're smart or talented, validating yourself. In the other, the world of changing qualities, it's about stretching yourself to learn something new. Developing yourself. In one world, failure is about having a setback, getting a bad grade, losing a tournament, getting fired, getting rejected. It means you're not smart or talented. In the other world, failure is about not growing, not reaching for the things you value. It means you're not fulfilling your potential. In one world, effort is a bad thing. It, like failure, means you're not smart or talented. If you were, you wouldn't need effort. In the other world, effort is what makes you smart or talented. You have a choice. Mindsets are just beliefs. They're powerful beliefs, but they're just something in your mind, and you can change your mind. Babies don't worry about making mistakes or humiliating themselves. They walk, they fall, they get up. They just barge forward. What could put an end to this exuberant learning? The fixed mindset. As soon as children become able to evaluate themselves, some of them become afraid of challenges. They become afraid of not being smart. Children with a fixed mindset want to make sure they succeed. Smart people should always succeed. But for children with a growth mindset, success is about stretching themselves. It's about becoming smarter. People with a fixed mindset were only interested when the feedback reflected on their ability. Their brain waves showed them paying close attention when they were told whether their answers were right or wrong. But when they were presented with information that could help them learn, there was no sign of interest. Even when they'd gotten an answer wrong, they were not interested in learning what the right answer was. Only people with a growth mindset paid close attention to information that could stretch their knowledge. Only for them was learning a priority. People in a growth mindset don't just seek challenge, they thrive on it. The bigger the challenge, the more they stretch. People with a growth mindset thrive when they're stretching themselves. When do people with a fixed mindset thrive? When things are safely within their grasp. If things get too challenging, when they're not feeling smart or talented, they lose interest. Students with a growth mindset continued to show the same high level of interest even when they found the work very challenging. Quote, "It's a lot more difficult for me than I thought it would be, but it's what I want to do, so that only makes me more determined. When they tell me I can't, it really gets me going." Unquote. Challenge and interest went hand in hand. People with a fixed mindset said, "It's when I don't make any mistakes. When I finish something fast and it's perfect. When something is easy for me, but other people can't do it. It's about being perfect right now." But people with a growth mindset said, "When it's really hard and I try really hard and I can do something I couldn't do before." Or, "When I work on something a long time and I start to figure it out." For them, it's not about immediate perfection. It's about learning something over time, confronting a challenge and making progress. Actually, people with a fixed mindset expect ability to show up on its own before any learning takes place. After all, if you have it, you have it, and if you don't, you don't. There was a saying in the 1960s that went, "Becoming is better than being." The fixed mindset does not allow people the luxury of becoming, they have to already be. Students with a growth mindset had taken our word that the test measured an important ability, but they didn't think it measured how smart they were. And they certainly didn't think it would tell them how smart they'd be when they grew up. In fact, one of them told us, "No way, ain't no test can do that." But the students with the fixed mindset didn't simply believe the test could measure an important ability, they also believed just as strongly that it could measure how smart they were, and how smart they'd be when they grew up. Isn't potential someone's capacity to develop their skills with effort and coaching over time? And that's just the point. How can we know where effort, coaching, and time will take someone? An assessment at one point in time has little value for understanding someone's ability, let alone their potential to succeed in the future. When people with a fixed mindset opt for success over growth, what are they really trying to prove? That they're special, even superior. When we asked them, "When do you feel smart?" so many of them talked about times they felt like a special person, someone who was different from and better than other people. People who believe in fixed traits feel an urgency to succeed, and when they do, they may feel more than pride. They may feel a sense of superiority, since success means that their fixed traits are better than other people's. However, lurking behind that self-esteem of the fixed mindset is a simple question. If you're somebody when you're successful, what are you when you're unsuccessful? Failure has been transformed from an action, "I failed," to an identity, "I am a failure." This is especially true in the fixed mindset. Even in the growth mindset, failure can be a painful experience, but it doesn't define you. It's a problem to be faced, dealt with, and learned from. In one study, 7th graders told us how they would respond to an academic failure, a poor test grade in a new course. Those with a growth mindset, no big surprise, said they would study harder for the next test, but those with a fixed mindset said they would study less for the next test. If you don't have the ability, why waste your time? And they said they would seriously consider cheating. If you don't have the ability, they thought, you just have to look for another way. What's more, instead of trying to learn from and repair their failures, people with a fixed mindset may simply try to repair their self-esteem. For example, they may go looking for people who are even worse off than they are. Another way people with a fixed mindset try to repair their self-esteem after a failure is by assigning blame or making excuses. Although students with a fixed mindset showed more depression, there were still plenty of people with a growth mindset who felt pretty miserable, this being peak season for depression. And here we saw something really amazing. The more depressed people with a growth mindset felt, short of severe depression, the more they took action to confront their problems, the more they made sure to keep up with their schoolwork, the more they kept up with their lives. The worse they felt, the more determined they became. As a society, we value natural, effortless accomplishment over achievement through effort. We endow our heroes with superhuman abilities that led them inevitably toward their greatness. People with a growth mindset, however, believe something very different. For them, even geniuses have to work hard for their achievements. And what's so heroic, they would say, about having a gift? They may appreciate endowment, but they admire effort. For no matter what your ability is, effort is what ignites that ability and turns it into accomplishment. From the point of view of the fixed mindset, effort is only for people with deficiencies. And when people already know they are deficient, maybe they have nothing to lose by trying. But if your claim to fame is not having any deficiencies, if you're considered a genius, a talent, or a natural, then you have a lot to lose. Effort can reduce you. The idea of trying and still failing, of leaving yourself without excuses, is the worst fear within the fixed mindset. Why is effort so terrifying? There are two reasons. One is that in the fixed mindset, great geniuses are not supposed to need it. So just needing it casts a shadow on your ability. The second is that it robs you of all your excuses. Without effort, you can always say, I could have been, fill in the blank. But once you try, you can't say that anymore. In the growth mindset, it's almost inconceivable to want something badly, to think you have a chance to achieve it, and then do nothing about it. When it happens, the I could have been is heartbreaking, not comforting. Billie Jean King says it's all about what you want to look back and say. I agree with her. You can look back and say, I could have been polishing your unused endowments like trophies. Or you can look back and say, I gave my all for the things I valued. Think about what you want to look back and say. Then choose your mindset. Sure, people with a fixed mindset have read the books that say success is about being your best self, not about being better than others. Failure is an opportunity, not a condemnation. Effort is the key to success. But they can't put this into practice because their basic mindset, their belief in fixed traits, is telling them something entirely different. That success is about being more gifted than others, that failure does measure you, and that effort is for those who can't make it on talent. Mindsets are an important part of your personality, but you can't change them. Just by knowing about the two mindsets, you can start thinking and reacting in new ways. People tell me they start to catch themselves when they are in the throes of the fixed mindset, passing up a chance for learning, feeling labeled by a failure, or getting discouraged when something requires a lot of effort. And then they switch themselves into the growth mindset, making sure they take the challenge, learn from the failure, or continue their effort. All of us have elements of both. We're all a mixture of fixed and growth mindsets. I'm talking about it as a simple either-or right now for the sake of simplicity. The growth mindset does allow people to love what they're doing and to continue to love it in the face of difficulties. The growth-minded athletes, CEOs, musicians, or scientists all loved what they did, whereas many of the fixed-minded ones did not. Many growth-minded people didn't even plan to go to the top. They got there as a result of doing what they love. It's ironic, the top is where the fixed mindset people hunger to be, but it's where many growth-minded people arrive as a byproduct of their enthusiasm for what they do. In the fixed mindset, everything is about the outcome. If you fail, or if you're not the best, it's all been wasted. The growth mindset allows people to value what they're doing regardless of the outcome. The fixed mindset creates the feeling that you can really know the permanent truth about yourself. And this can be comforting. You don't have to try for such and such because you don't have the talent. You will surely succeed as thus and such because you do have the talent. In the growth mindset, you don't always need confidence. What I mean is that even when you think you're not good at something, you can still plunge into it wholeheartedly and stick to it. Actually, sometimes you plunge into something because you're not good at it. It is a wonderful feature of the growth mindset. You don't have to think you're already great at something to want to do it and to enjoy it. How do you act when you feel depressed? Do you work harder at things in your life or do you let them go? Next time you feel low, put yourself in a growth mindset. Think about learning, challenge, confronting obstacles. Think about effort as a positive, constructive force, not as a big drag. Try it out. The truth about ability and accomplishment. There are many myths about ability and achievement, especially about the lone, brilliant person suddenly producing amazing things. Yet Darwin's masterwork, The Origin of Species, took years of teamwork in the field, hundreds of discussions with colleagues and mentors, several preliminary drafts, and half a lifetime of dedication before it reached fruition. Mozart labored for more than 10 years until he produced any work that we admire today. Before then, his compositions were not that original or interesting. Actually, they were often patched together chunks taken from other composers. Students with a fixed mindset tell us that their main goal in school, aside from looking smart, is to exert as little effort as possible. They heartily agree with statements like this. In school, my main goal is to do things as easily as possible, so I don't have to work very hard. This low-effort syndrome is often seen as a way that adolescents assert their independence from adults, but it is also a way that students with a fixed mindset protect themselves. They view the adults as saying, "Now we will measure you and see what you've got," and they are answering, "No, you won't." Most often, people believe that the gift is the ability itself, yet what feeds it is that constant, endless curiosity and challenge-seeking. Bloom concludes, quote, "After 40 years of intensive research in school learning in the United States as well as abroad, my major conclusion is, what any person in the world can learn, almost all persons can learn, if provided with the appropriate prior and current conditions of learning." Unquote. He's not counting the 2 to 3% of children who have severe impairments, and he's not counting the top 1 to 2% of children at the other extreme. He is counting everybody else. Just because some people can do something with little or no training, it doesn't mean that others can't do it and sometimes do it even better with training. This is so important because many people with the fixed mindset think that somebody's early performance tells you all you need to know about their talent and their future. Both groups were exactly equal to begin with, but right after the praise, they began to differ. As we feared, the ability praise pushed students right into the fixed mindset, and they showed all the signs of it too. When we gave them a choice, they rejected a challenging new task that they could learn from. They didn't want to do anything that could expose their flaws and call into question their talent. In contrast, when students were praised for effort, 90% of them wanted the challenging new task that they could learn from. So telling children they are smart in the end made them feel dumber and act dumber, but claim they were smarter. I don't think this is what we're aiming for when we put positive labels, gifted, talented, brilliant, on people. We don't mean to rob them of their zest for challenge and their recipes for success, but that's the danger. In the fixed mindset, both positive and negative labels can mess with your mind. When you're given a positive label, you're afraid of losing it. And when you're hit with a negative label, you're afraid of deserving it. When people are in a growth mindset, the stereotype doesn't disrupt their performance. The growth mindset takes the teeth out of the stereotype and makes people better able to fight back. They don't believe in permanent inferiority. And if they are behind, well, then they'll work harder, seek help, and try to catch up. The growth mindset lets people, even those who are targets of negative labels, use and develop their minds fully. Their heads are not filled with limiting thoughts, a fragile sense of belonging, and a belief that other people can define them. Are there situations where you get stupid, where you disengage your intelligence? Next time you're in one of those situations, get yourself into a growth mindset. Think about learning and improvement, not judgment, and hook it back up. Do you label your kids? This one is the artist and that one is the scientist. Next time, remember that you're not helping them, even though you may be praising them. Remember our study where praising kids' ability lowered their IQ scores. Find a growth mindset way to complement them. Business, mindset, and leadership. Gladwell concludes that when people live in an environment that esteems them for their innate talent, they have grave difficulty when their image is threatened. Quote, "They will not take the remedial course. They will not stand up to investors and the public and admit that they were wrong. They'd sooner lie." Unquote. Obviously, a company that cannot self-correct cannot thrive. What distinguished the thriving companies from the others? There were several important factors, as Collins reports in his book Good to Great, but one that was absolutely key was the type of leader who, in every case, led the company into greatness. These were not the larger-than-life charismatic types who oozed ego and self-proclaimed talent. They were self-effacing people who constantly asked questions and had the ability to confront the most brutal answers. That is, to look failures in the face, even their own, while maintaining faith that they would succeed in the end. These are the hallmarks. They're not constantly trying to prove they are better than others. For example, they don't highlight the pecking order with themselves at the top, they don't claim credit for other people's contributions, and they don't undermine others to feel powerful. Instead, they are constantly trying to improve. They surround themselves with the most able people they can find, they look squarely at their own mistakes and deficiencies, and they ask frankly what skills they and the company will need in the future. And because of this, they can move forward with confidence that's grounded in the facts, not built on fantasies about their talents. Fixed mindset leaders, like fixed mindset people in general, live in a world where some people are superior and some are inferior. They must repeatedly affirm that they are superior, and the company is simply a platform for this. Collins's comparison leaders were typically concerned with their reputation for personal greatness, so much so that they often set the company up to fail when their regime ended. As Collins put it, quote, "After all, what's better testament to your own personal greatness than that the place falls apart after you leave?" Unquote. Instead of building an extraordinary management team like the good to great companies, they operated on the fixed mindset premise that great geniuses do not need great teams. They just need little helpers to carry out their brilliant ideas. Great geniuses don't want great teams either. Fixed mindset people want to be the only big fish, so that when they compare themselves to those around them, they can feel a cut above the rest. The people who preen their egos and look for the next self-image boost are not the same people who foster long-term corporate health. This is a radical extension of the fixed mindset. My genius not only defines and validates me, it defines and validates the company. It is what creates value. My genius is profit. Wow. When leaders feel they are inherently better than others, they may start to believe that the needs or feelings of the lesser people can be ignored. None of our fixed mindset leaders cared much about the little guy, and many were outright contemptuous of those beneath them on the corporate ladder. Where does this lead? In the guise of keeping people on their toes, these bosses may mistreat workers. Sometimes the victims are people the bosses consider to be less talented. This can feed their sense of superiority. But often the victims are the most competent people because these are the ones who pose the greatest threat to a fixed mindset boss. If you're really concerned about our performance, you don't pick on those who are performing best. But if you're really concerned about your competence, you do. When bosses become controlling and abusive, they put everyone into a fixed mindset. This means that instead of learning, growing, and moving the company forward, everyone starts worrying about being judged. As growth-minded leaders, they start with a belief in human potential and development, both their own and other people's. Instead of using the company as a vehicle for their greatness, they use it as an engine of growth for themselves, the employees, and the company as a whole. We see the me of the validation-hungry CEO becoming the we and us of the growth-minded leader. True self-confidence is, quote, the courage to be open, to welcome change and new ideas regardless of their source, unquote. Real self-confidence is not reflected in a title, an expensive suit, a fancy car, or a series of acquisitions. It is reflected in your mindset, your readiness to grow. He rewarded teamwork rather than individual genius. For years, GE, like Enron, had rewarded the single originator of an idea, but now Welch wanted to reward the team that brought the ideas to fruition. Quote, as a result, leaders were encouraged to share the credit for their ideas with their teams rather than take full credit themselves. It made a huge difference in how we all related to one another, unquote. From a growth mindset, it's not only the select few that have something to offer. Quote, hierarchy means very little to me. Let's put together in meetings the people who can help solve problems, regardless of position, unquote. The fixed and growth mindset groups started with the same ability, but as time went on, the growth mindset groups clearly outperformed the fixed mindset ones. And this difference became ever larger the longer the groups worked. The members of the growth mindset groups were much more likely to state their honest opinions and openly express their disagreements as they communicate about their management decisions. Everyone was part of the learning process. For the fixed mindset groups, with their concern about who was smart or dumb or their anxiety about disapproval for their ideas, that open, productive discussion did not happen. Instead, it was more like groupthink. Winston Churchill set up a special department. Others might be in awe of his titanic persona, but the job of his department, Jim Collins reports, was to give Churchill all the worst news. Then Churchill could sleep well at night, knowing he had not been groupthinked into a false sense of security. Groupthink can happen when the group gets carried away with its brilliance and superiority. Groupthink can also happen when a fixed mindset leader punishes dissent. People may not stop thinking critically, but they stop speaking up. We've talked about all the well-meaning parents who've tried to boost their children's self-esteem by telling them how smart and talented they are. And we've talked about all the negative effects of this kind of praise. Well, these children of praise have now entered the workforce, and sure enough, many can't function without getting a sticker for their every move. We now have a workforce full of people who need constant reassurance and can't take criticism. Instead of just giving employees an award for the smartest idea or praise for a brilliant performance, they would get praise for taking initiative, for seeing a difficult task through, for struggling and learning something new, for being undaunted by a setback, or for being open to and acting on criticism. Most people, when they first become managers, enter a period of great learning. They get lots of training and coaching, they are open to ideas, and they think long and hard about how to do their jobs. They are looking to develop. But once they've learned the basics, they stop trying to improve. It may seem like too much trouble, or they may not see where improvement will take them. They are content to do their jobs rather than making themselves into leaders. An organization might embody a fixed mindset, conveying that employees either have it or they don't. We call this a culture of genius. Or it might embody more of a growth mindset, conveying that people can grow and improve with effort, good strategies, and good mentoring. We call this a culture of development. It's possible to weave a fixed or growth mindset into the very fabric of an organization to create a culture of genius or a culture of development. Relationships. Mindsets in love or not. Almost everyone at one time or another had been in love and had been hurt. What differed, and differed dramatically, was how they dealt with it. When people had the fixed mindset, they felt judged and labeled by the rejection, permanently labeled. It was as though a verdict had been handed down and branded on their foreheads, unlovable, and they lashed out. It had to be a person with a fixed mindset who coined the phrase "revenge is sweet," the idea that with revenge comes your redemption, because people with a growth mindset have little taste for it. The stories they told were every bit as wrenching, but their reactions couldn't have been more different. For them, it was about understanding, forgiving, and moving on. So far, having a fixed mindset has meant believing your personal traits are fixed. But in relationships, two more things enter the picture: your partner and the relationship itself. Now you can have a fixed mindset about three things. You can believe that your qualities are fixed, your partner's qualities are fixed, and the relationship's qualities are fixed. That it's inherently good or bad, meant to be or not meant to be. Now, all of these things are up for judgment. The growth mindset says all of these things can be developed. All, you, your partner, and the relationship, are capable of growth and change. In the fixed mindset, the ideal is instant, perfect, and perpetual compatibility, like it was meant to be, like riding off into the sunset, like they lived happily ever after. If you have to work at it, it wasn't meant to be. One problem is that people with a fixed mindset expect everything good to happen automatically. It's not that the partners will work to help each other solve their problems or gain skills. It's that this will magically occur through their love. In the growth mindset, there may still be that exciting initial combustion, but people in this mindset don't expect magic. They believe that a good, lasting relationship comes from effort and from working through inevitable differences. But those with the fixed mindset don't buy that. Remember the fixed mindset idea that if you have ability, you shouldn't have to work hard? This is the same belief applied to relationships. If you're compatible, everything should just come naturally. Every single relationship expert disagrees with this. Part of the low effort belief is the idea that couples should be able to read each other's minds. We are like one. My partner should know what I think, feel, and need, and I should know what my partner thinks, feels, and needs. It's strange to believe in mind reading, but it makes sense when you realize that many people with a fixed mindset believe that a couple should share all of each other's views. If you do, then you don't need communication. You can just assume your partner sees things the way you do. A couple may agree on traditional roles. That's up to them. But that's different from assuming it as an entitlement. A no-effort relationship is a doomed relationship, not a great relationship. It takes work to communicate accurately, and it takes work to expose and resolve conflicting hopes and beliefs. The second big difficulty with a fixed mindset is the belief that problems are a sign of deep-seated flaws. But just as there are no great achievements without setbacks, there are no great relationships without conflicts and problems along the way. When people with a fixed mindset talk about their conflicts, they assign blame. Sometimes they blame themselves, but often they blame their partner. And they assign blame to a trait, a character flaw. Since the problem comes from fixed traits, it can't be solved. So once people with a fixed mindset see flaws in their partners, they become contemptuous of them and dissatisfied with the whole relationship. People with a growth mindset, on the other hand, can see their partner's imperfections and still think they have a fine relationship. Relationship expert Daniel Weil says that choosing a partner is choosing a set of problems. There are no problem-free candidates. The trick is to acknowledge each other's limitations and build from there. Aaron Beck tells couples in counseling never to think these fixed mindset thoughts. My partner is incapable of change. Nothing can improve our relationship. These ideas, he says, are almost always wrong. The belief that partners have the potential for change should not be confused with the belief that the partner will change. The partner has to want to change, commit to change, and take concrete actions toward change. With a fixed mindset, one moment your partner is the light of your life, the next they're your adversary. Remember how hard it is for people with a fixed mindset to forgive? Part of it is that they feel branded by a rejection or breakup. But another part is that if they forgive the partner, if they see him or her as a decent person, then they have to shoulder more of the blame themselves. If my partner is a good guy, then I must be a bad guy. I must be the person who was at fault. When people embark on a relationship, they encounter a partner who is different from them, and they haven't learned how to deal with the differences. In a good relationship, people develop these skills, and as they do, both partners grow and the relationship deepens. Friendships, like partnerships, are places where we have to change to enhance each other's development and to validate each other. Both are important. Friends can give each other the wisdom and courage to make growth-enhancing decisions, and friends can reassure each other of their fine qualities. Despite the dangers of praising traits, there are times when we need reassurance about ourselves. Conventional wisdom says that you know who your friends are in your times of need. And of course, this view has merit. Who will stand by you day after day when you're in trouble? However, sometimes an even tougher question is, who can you turn to when good things happen? When you find a wonderful partner, when you get a great job offer or promotion, when your child does well, who would be glad to hear it? Your failures and misfortunes don't threaten other people's self-esteem. Ego-wise, it's easier to be sympathetic to someone in need. It's your assets and your successes that are problems for people who derive their self-esteem from being superior. People with a fixed mindset were more likely to be shy. This makes sense. The fixed mindset makes you concerned about judgment, and this can make you more self-conscious and anxious. Shyness harmed the social interactions of people with the fixed mindset, but did not harm the social relations of people with a growth mindset. The observers' ratings showed that although both fixed and growth-minded shy people looked very nervous for the first 5 minutes of the interaction, after that, the shy, growth-minded people showed greater social skills, were more likable, and created a more enjoyable interaction. In fact, they began to look just like non-shy people. The shy, growth-minded people looked on social situations as challenges. Even though they felt anxious, they actively welcomed the chance to meet someone new. The shy, fixed people instead wanted to avoid meeting someone who might be more socially skilled than they were. They said they were more worried about making mistakes. You can see how these different patterns would affect making friends. The shy growth mindset people take control of their shyness. They go out and meet new people, and after their nerves settle down, their relationships proceed normally. The shyness doesn't tyrannize them. But for fixed mindset people, the shyness takes control. It keeps them out of social situations with new people, and when they're in them, they can't let down their guard and let go of their fears. It's not that bullies are low in self-esteem, but judging and demeaning others can give them a self-esteem rush. Bullies also gain social status from their actions. Others may look up to them and judge them to be cool, powerful, or funny, or may fear them. Either way, they've upped their standing. There's a big dose of fixed mindset thinking in the bullies. Some people are superior and some are inferior. And the bullies are the judges. In a New York Times article on bullying, Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold are referred to as two misfit teenagers. It's true, they didn't fit in. But you never hear the bullies referred to as misfits, because they weren't. They fit right in. In fact, they defined and ruled the school culture. Parents, teachers, and coaches. Where do mindsets come from? Listen for the messages in the following examples. You learned that so quickly. You're so smart. Look at that drawing. Martha, is he the next Picasso or what? You're so brilliant. You got an A without even studying. If you're like most parents, you hear these as supportive, esteem-boosting messages. But listen more closely. See if you can hear another message. It's the one that children hear. If I don't learn something quickly, I'm not smart. I shouldn't try drawing anything hard or they'll see that I'm no Picasso. I'd better quit studying or they won't think I'm brilliant. Praising children's intelligence harms their motivation and it harms their performance. Children love praise, and they especially love to be praised for their intelligence and talent. It really does give them a boost, a special glow, but only for the moment. The minute they hit a snag, their confidence goes out the window and their motivation hits rock bottom. If success means they're smart, then failure means they're dumb. Parents think that they can hand children permanent confidence like a gift by praising their brains and talent. It doesn't work, and in fact has the opposite effect. It makes children doubt themselves as soon as anything is hard or anything goes wrong. If parents want to give their children a gift, the best thing they can do is to teach their children to love challenges, be intrigued by mistakes, enjoy effort, seek new strategies, and keep on learning. That way, their children don't have to be slaves of praise. They will have a lifelong way to build and repair their own confidence. We should keep away from a certain kind of praise. Praise that judges their intelligence or talent. Or praise that implies that we're proud of them for their intelligence or talent rather than for the work they put in. We can appreciate them as much as we want for the growth-oriented process, what they accomplished through practice, study, persistence, and good strategies. And we can ask them about their work in a way that recognizes and shows interest in their efforts and choices. Haim Ginnett, through his lifelong work with children, came to the same conclusion. Quote, praise should deal not with a child's personality attributes, but with his efforts and achievements. Unquote. When we say to children, wow, you did that so quickly, or look, you didn't make any mistakes, what message are we sending? We are telling them that what we prize are speed and perfection. Speed and perfection are the enemy of difficult learning. If you think I'm smart when I'm fast and perfect, I'd better not take on anything challenging. So what should we say when children complete a task, say math problems, quickly and perfectly? Should we deny them the praise they have earned? Yes. When this happens, I say, whoops, I guess it was too easy. I apologize for wasting your time. Let's do something you can really learn from. There is a strong message in our society about how to boost children's self-esteem, and a main part of that message is protect them from failure. While this may help with the immediate problem of a child's disappointment, it can be harmful in the long run. Children need honest and constructive feedback. If children are protected from it, they won't learn well. They will experience advice, coaching, and feedback as negative and undermining. Withholding constructive criticism does not help children's confidence, it harms their future. Constructive means helping the child to fix something, build a better product, or do a better job. Children as young as toddlers pick up these messages from their parents, learning that their mistakes are worthy of judgment and punishment, or learning that their mistakes are an occasion for suggestions and teaching. When parents help their children construct growth-minded ideals, they are giving them something they can strive for. They are also giving their children growing room to grow into full human beings who will make their contribution to society in a way that excites them. Many educators think that lowering their standards will give students success experiences, boost their self-esteem, and raise their achievement. It comes from the same philosophy as the overpraising of students' intelligence. Well, it doesn't work. Lowering standards just leads to poorly educated students who feel entitled to easy work and lavish praise. Great teachers set high standards for all their students, not just the ones who are already achieving. Teachers with a fixed mindset create an atmosphere of judging. These teachers look at students' beginning performance and decide who's smart and who's dumb. Then they give up on the dumb ones. When students don't know how to do something and others do, the gap seems unbridgeable. Some educators try to reassure their students that they're just fine as they are. Growth-minded teachers tell students the truth and then give them the tools to close the gap. When teachers are judging them, students will sabotage the teacher by not trying. But when students understand that school is for them, a way for them to grow their minds, they do not insist on sabotaging themselves. Beware of success. It can knock you into a fixed mindset. I won because I have talent, therefore I will keep winning. Success can infect a team, or it can infect an individual. The first important thing to remember here is that the process includes more than just effort. Certainly, we want children to appreciate the fruits of hard work, but we also want them to understand the importance of trying new strategies when the one they're using isn't working. Another pitfall is praising effort or any part of the process that's not there. More than once, parents have said to me, "I praise my child's effort, but it's not working." I immediately ask, "Was your child actually trying hard?" "Well, not really," comes the sheepish reply. We should never think that praising a process that is not there will bring good results. Recently, someone asked me, "What keeps you up at night?" And I said, "It's the fear that the mindset concept will be used to make kids feel good when they're not learning, just like the failed self-esteem movement." The growth mindset is meant to help kids learn, not to paper over the fact that they are not learning. When people realize I'm the mindset person, they often say, "Oh yeah, praise the process, not the outcome, right?" Well, not quite. This is such a common misconception. In all of our research on praise, we indeed praise the process, but we tie it to the outcome, that is, to children's learning, progress, or achievements. Misunderstanding number 3. A growth mindset equals telling children they can do anything. Few people believe in children's potential as much as I do, or yearn to see all children fulfill their enormous promise, but it doesn't happen by simply telling them you can do anything. It happens by helping them gain the skills and find the resources to make progress toward their goals. Otherwise, it's an empty reassurance. It puts the onus entirely on the student and may make them feel like a failure if they don't reach their goals. We were initially surprised to find out that many adults with growth mindsets were not passing them on. However, the moral of this story is that parents, teachers, and coaches pass on a growth mindset not by having a belief sitting in their heads, but by embodying a growth mindset in their deeds. The way they praise, conveying the processes that lead to learning, the way they treat setbacks as opportunities for learning, and the way they focus on deepening understanding as the goal of learning. Changing mindsets. This chapter is about changing the internal monologue from a judging one to a growth-oriented one. Just learning about the growth mindset can cause a big shift in the way people think about themselves and their lives. Over the past few years, we've developed a workshop for these students. It teaches them the growth mindset and how to apply it to their schoolwork. Here is part of what they're told. Many people think of the brain as a mystery. They don't know much about intelligence and how it works. When they do think about what intelligence is, many people believe that a person is born either smart, average, or dumb, and stays that way for life. But new research shows that the brain is more like a muscle. It changes and gets stronger when you use it. And scientists have been able to show just how the brain grows and gets stronger when you learn. We then describe how the brain forms new connections and quote-unquote grows when people practice and learn new things. When you learn new things, these tiny connections in the brain actually multiply and get stronger. The more that you challenge your mind to learn, the more your brain cells grow. Then, things that you once found very hard or even impossible, like speaking a foreign language or doing algebra, seem to become easy. The result is a stronger, smarter brain. The students in the other workshop did not improve. Despite their 8 sessions of training and study skills and other good things, they showed no gains. Because they were not taught to think differently about their minds, they were not motivated to put the skills into practice. The Mindset Workshop put students in charge of their brains. Freed from the vice of the fixed mindset, Jimmy and others like him could now use their minds more freely and fully. Change is also hard. When people hold onto a fixed mindset, it's often for a reason. At some point in their lives, it served a good purpose for them. It told them who they were or who they wanted to be, a smart, talented child. And it told them how to be that, perform well. In this way, it provided a formula for self-esteem and a path to love and respect from others. The idea that they are worthy and will be loved is crucial for children, and if a child is unsure about being valued or loved, the fixed mindset appears to offer a simple, straightforward route to this. Psychologists Karen Horney and Carl Rogers, working in the mid-1900s, both proposed theories of children's emotional development. They believed that when children feel insecure about being accepted by their parents, they experience great anxiety. They feel lost and alone in a complicated world. Since they're only a few years old, they can't simply reject their parents and say, "I'll think I'll go it alone." They have to find a way to feel safe and to win their parents over. Both Horney and Rogers proposed that children do this by creating or imagining other selves, ones that their parents might like better. These new selves are what they think the parents are looking for and what may win them the parents' acceptance. This new self, this all-competent, strong, good self that they now try to be, is likely to be a fixed mindset self. Over time, the fixed traits may come to be the person's sense of who they are, and validating these traits may come to be the main source of their self-esteem. There's the concern that you won't be yourself anymore. It may feel as though the fixed mindset gave you your ambition, your edge, your individuality. Maybe you fear you'll become a bland cog in the wheel just like everyone else. Ordinary. But opening yourself up to growth makes you more yourself, not less. Think of something you need to do, something you want to learn, or a problem you have to confront. What is it? Now make a concrete plan. When will you follow through on your plan? Where will you do it? How will you do it? Think about it in vivid detail. These concrete plans you can visualize about when, where, and how you are going to do something lead to really high levels of follow-through, which of course ups the chances of success. So the idea is not only to make a growth mindset plan, but also to visualize in a concrete way how you're going to carry it out. For a long time, it's frightening to think of giving up the idea of being superior. An ordinary, run-of-the-mill human being isn't what you want to be. How could you feel good about yourself if you're no more valuable than the people you look down on? You begin to consider the idea that some people stand out because of their commitment and effort. Little by little, you try putting more effort into things and seeing if you get more of the rewards you wanted. You do. It's a long time before you begin to enjoy putting in effort, and a long time before you begin to think in terms of learning. Instead of seeing your time at the bottom of the corporate ladder as an insult, you slowly see that you can learn a lot at the bottom that could help you greatly on your rise to the top. In the end, many people with a fixed mindset understand that their cloak of specialness was really a suit of armor they built to feel safe, strong, and worthy. The fixed mindset is so very tempting. It seems to promise children a lifetime of worth, success, and admiration just for sitting there and being who they are. That's why it can take a lot of work to make the growth mindset flourish where the fixed mindset has taken root. It's like the growth mindset chemistry students. They used better study techniques, carefully planned their study time, and kept up their motivation. In other words, they used every strategy possible to make sure they succeeded. Just like them, people in a growth mindset don't merely make New Year's resolutions and wait to see if they stick to them. Every one of us has a journey to take. It starts by accepting that we all have both mindsets. Then we learn to recognize what triggers our fixed mindset: failures, criticism, deadlines, disagreements. And we come to understand what happens to us when our fixed mindset persona is triggered. Who is this persona? What's its name? What does it make us think, feel, and do? How does it affect those around us? Importantly, we can gradually learn to remain in a growth mindset place despite the triggers, as we educate our persona and invite it to join us on our growth mindset journey. Ideally, we will learn more and more about how we can help others on their journey too.